Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Mastering Multi-Step Reports, Streamlining Your Data Analysis and Reporting Process. Today, we have guest speaker, Antonio Sandridge of TKOplus. Just a little bit about Apsona. Apsona in Hindi means golden, so we call ourselves the Golden App. We were founded in May 2009 and have been on the Salesforce App Exchange since March 2011. We have over 1,700 customers and over 10,000 users. We have 250 plus App Exchange reviews with a rating of 4.89 out of 5. And we work with any data model, so sales, service cloud, industry clouds, MPSP. And at the bottom are some of the people that we serve. This is Antonio Sandridge, Apsona Superfan, System Architect for Experian Health. And on the side, Antonio has his own business called TKOplus. He's been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for over 18 years, has earned 11 Salesforce certifications, and his desired superpower is the ability to eat any meal or dish. And I will let Antonio take it from here.
These items typically come to me in the form of a case, a question, comment, email, something in conversation. So one of the first one, and I've kind of given these challenges a name, and you'll see that later in the slide. So one of the challenges that you approach with Salesforce and Salesforce reporting is, well, let me get into the business case. So this business case, this is an actual business case that came to me recently. It was, hey, I'd like a list of registered conference contacts, and I'd like to understand if they're going through any upgrade projects with Experian. Experian, we use Salesforce extensively on a couple different objects, and we track different things like customer upgrades and their progress. So a checklist is one of those items. And down below, you see some of the items that are involved in this request. So you have a contact, a campaign, because that's where we track our conference attendees, which would be the campaign members. We'd like to know what account they're on, and then those accounts are connected to the checklist, and then the checklist has checklist items. So, a lot of different data points. And here, let me slide to the next screen. And if you guys can see this kind of gives you a rough example of what that schema looks like. And I call this, when you try to report on this from standard Salesforce, I call this running into the schema dilemma.
Yeah.
So Salesforce reporting and Salesforce out of the box, it does a pretty good job of going from accounts to contacts to campaigns and campaign members, kind of in this straight row.
Mm-hmm.
But what it really fails, or where there's a gap, is when you have to go from campaign to contact to account, and then come back down on this side and go to checklist and find checklist items. There's really not an out-of-the-box solution for this within Salesforce. But that's where Apsona really plays really well. And they give you the tools with multi-step reporting to create this request. So let me switch gears real quick, and I'll show you how we solve this problem and kind of what the output looks like to get around the schema dilemma. So let me stop this.
Looks like in standard Salesforce, the closest you'd be able to get would be like a joined report or something, which has got its own limitations, and it's a struggle to work with.
That's absolutely right. And that's usually where most people will start to go.
Yeah.
Is they'll jump to some type of joined report, or they'll try to finagle some type of custom report type. And, again,
Yeah.
really trying to get there, but you'll run into a limitation. So,
Cool.
all right, so let me jump into, and I've already got the report kind of set up just so for ease of use and so we can walk through it together. But in this particular example, you're going to see that I've created 3 steps, and we'll walk through each step. In each step, you should consider them as a separate query. But the cool and the magic part, well, I'll show you where the magic comes in with Apsona. So in step 1, sorry, let me pull my screen back. We'll come here and we'll retrieve the fields that we want from the campaign members. And I've already added I want the first name, the last name, and the account, or the top level account name for this particular campaign member. And you'll see where this comes in really handy a little bit later on.
All right.
I'm going to add in my filter criteria, and my filter criteria is purely just, hey, I only want 1 campaign. So I'm going to add them to, I want to get all the campaign members where they are part of our 2023 Conference Center campaign. And so we call that conference the High Performance Conference Summit Conference. So that's what you see here in step 2. We're adding the filters.
Okay.
And then if we move over to, obviously, I want to get all of them. If there were millions or billion, tons of rows, I would just simply add some more rows. But I could also come here and magically sort them by first name, last name, or any column that I pick in that first option. And I'll just show you some of any of the fields that were here and available. I could easily sort by those values.
Well, that's one of the things I also like about Apsona is you have multiple levels of sorting, whereas in Salesforce you can group things, but in terms of like sorting your columns, you just get one.
Yeah, no, and that kind of goes into another point. You get these options right here. You can kind of do some of this in Salesforce, but not like the max or the mins. You just got, it's just a lot more flexibility here.
Yeah.
All right. We'll come back to this linkage tab on the next step. So that's now I did a query, and this report would work great just to get campaign members in that particular campaign. However, I added a second step, and this is the beauty of multi-step reporting. In this second step, and I always run give my steps a very generic name, just to make sure that I know where we left off. So I'm going to get the checklist. In this particular case, the request was to get any checklists that were open or unfinished. Okay. So that's what you'll see here when I go to retrieve. Couple things I want to know. I want to know the top level account name. I want to know the owner, their full name, because this is the person who's responsible for that particular checklist. I want to know the percentage complete. So I added that. And then I want to know the number of related accounts, because then that kind of gives me a sense of how large or big this particular effort is within this particular account. All right.
And is that a metric field that you're using for number of related accounts?
I believe that it is.
From the bottom. I don't have the annotatability, but yeah, from the metrics section at the bottom of your field list. Yeah, right there. Is that where you got that field?
Oh, no. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, I did. I added that, but then, thank you, Chad, you just gave me another data point. So what I did, you can see it's a count of related accounts, which was one of these fields. But this is another really cool thing that is only available in Apsona. Notice I relabeled the column and the column name. You can't do that within Salesforce and Salesforce reporting. The field in the checklist is called related accounts. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's called related accounts. But I wanted to change the name and the label to make the output a little bit better. So I changed it to number of related accounts, like that.
And I can't tell you how many times I wish I could rename columns in Salesforce because the field names get all long and you got to scroll
Oh
and I
yeah.
just oh, I love that feature.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. That is a marvelous, and I just took it for granted there when I'm going through the demo. But yes, absolutely. That
And
is a really cool feature.
I just want to insert a bit about metric fields as a concept. Metric fields are kind of like live rollups. So that Antonio's pulling in the number of related records, the number of related accounts, and you can do like sum of amounts. You could do count of things. You could do most recent date, oldest date. So if you just need like an on-the-fly roll-up field, basically to look at related records and pull certain pieces of it up into your report, you don't have to build a roll-up field. You could just throw in a metric field, and metric fields are a little kind of a hidden gem in a way. So I just want to kind of like bring some extra attention to it. That it's a very powerful part of Epsona.
No, absolutely. And you're right. It is one of those hidden gems, like I said, because I just rolled right over it, took it for granted. All right. So we'll come here to our filters, and I just put a very simple filter here because I want to see anything that's not 100% complete. So I just picked 95%. All right. The range, still, again, I want to get everything. So we've kind of gone over that particular tab. But then right here, this linkage tab is truly where the magic happens. And Apsona has done a marvelous job of, and this one, I'm actually going to remove this just to show you. So on the linkage tab, what you can do, think of it as a bridge, or that's what I like to think of it as a bridge that allows me to connect data from any step above. So data from step 1 to step 2. And in this case, Apsona has also done me a really cool favor, and they've given me all the different values that I can pick and choose from. So I don't have to go hunt and peck or try to find something. I literally just pick from the list. Apsona's done the hard work to say, yep, you can match this field with this field. These two fields match. And notice it's not just the IDs, these are text fields. These can be any data fields. Chad, I don't know if there's any limits or any other constraints there that you want to talk about, but this is, quite frankly, probably the hardest piece, but Apsona's made it easy for you by giving you this list.
Yeah, this is kind of the magic of multi-step. So our big kind of like top use case for multi-step report is, hey, I'm in Salesforce. I need to reach to all these different objects that are not related, and I can't do it in Salesforce, just like you highlighted with your ERD earlier with your diagram. And so this linkage is basically kind of the secret sauce of multi-step. As long as you have some type of data that's common between any record, you could link it. And ID is a great way to do it, but sometimes it's just too far away and you don't have an ID to use. And that's the magic of the text values. So you could, if you had like a state that was a central kind of data point and you have California here and California there, you could just link them that way. So yeah, I totally agree. It's a great piece.
All right. And then in this, I'll move down to step 3 because I have all the data that I really wanted. But I added this step, quite frankly, because I wanted to help kind of highlight what I think is another hidden gem, and something that I learned is these calculation steps and what you can do inside of these calculation steps. So in this particular case, I'm not doing a query. I'm purely doing some calculations. So I chose this calculation step, and you can see some of the other fields are disabled automatically for us. And then, but on the calculation, I'm creating my own field, and I wanted to create my own category to categorize where those projects landed. And by default, it uses, or it supports, standard JavaScript. There's a huge article. I wish I would have had the link to the article, but maybe we can put it in the chat. That shows you how to use standard JavaScript JavaScript functions inside of Apsona. And in this particular case, I have these as unfinished checklist status. Again, I came up with my own label, and then I'm just simply giving them, putting them in a bucket right here based off of their percentage complete. And if they don't have a checklist, it would say no checklist. So, all right. So once you save that and run it, you end up with an output that looks very similar to this. And you can see this is in my opinion, I can literally just give this, I'm in a sandbox. So some of the data and the data points have been kind of changed a little bit, but you can see all of those data, all of those items that we ran are right here. I can see the customer, I can see the percentage complete. I know how many accounts. And again, this shows me very quickly, this is 102 accounts. So I know that's a really big initiative and we haven't started it yet. But now when I go into this conference, or when someone goes to the conference and they meet Donna, they got a little bit of background immediately about her. So there's no surprises, and they can have an idea of all the different items. And also, if there's a need for someone on our team to reach out to her before the conference and set up time to say, hey, maybe we can talk. There's all different use cases. This is just one that we use a lot, just so we're not surprised, just so we're, can think ahead and to reach out to people, make sure the right people are included in any type of meeting or conversation while we have Donna, an engaged user, there at our conference.
That's great.
All right. All right. So that's one particular use case. Let me go back to the slides, and I'll talk about use case number 2. Use case number 2 is another one that we get a lot, or that comes across my desk a lot, in multiple different facets. But effectively, this is the use case. So we at Experian, we sell a lot of products that work really well together. We have roughly over 40 products, but some of them are packaged and they work really well together. So let's just say there are 3 maybe a client has purchased 2 of those products, but they haven't purchased a third. And we want to know why, or the product manager wants to know why, or maybe they're trying to run a promotion to find out, to offer them at a special discount or anything like that, all different reasons. In your use case might be slightly different, but it doesn't have to be sales driven. It could also be just to survey them or to get feedback, or maybe there's a gap in the tool that they don't have, that you want to figure out why. So we try to use this for market analysis. And so what's involved with this particular use case? It's just one object with filters and 3 specific products. So most people will say, yep, I can do this right with Salesforce reporting. And you can do this right out of the box with Salesforce. You just run one query, put your OR statement right in there, and great, you can produce a report. You could also produce 3 separate reports. That's another approach that you could probably take. But the shortcoming with that, and maybe let me share a second item here. When you run one report with 3 separate filters, you'll get something that looks very similar to this. So here's the output. I'm looking for 3 separate products: product 1, product 2, and product 3, and I get a list.
Yeah.
The challenge here is, how do you find what somebody doesn't have? You can kind of come up with all these different iterations, and your eyes are going back and forth, up and down. Where do they lists, where do they link? You know,
Yeah.
you can't really find it. The visual is not that great.
Okay.
So let me go back here to my presentation. I call this the multiple query dilemma. So where you want to run multiple queries on one object, and in this case, ours would be account products, but you can't do that out of the box with Salesforce. And it's really just to do the visualization. That's where this comes in really in handy. But with Apsona and multi-step reportings, this becomes a really seamless effort, and the visualization is super easy. So let me switch it again. Sorry for toggling so much.
No, that's okay.
We'll come here and we'll go to use case 2 here. We'll edit this guy. In this particular example, you'll see that I'm going to go find 3 products. But what multi-step reporting does, it allows me to clone this 3 separate times. I mean, 3 individual times. So I'll go and add the fields here. We'll just walk through the same way as we did before. I added all of my fields that I wanted. I wanted to know the account, the customer segment, the product that they have, and the fact right here, I did change the name. Again, this is such an awesome feature. I mean, use it all the time. I take it for granted, but I changed the label and the name. So in this particular case, I wanted to say, I want to see what the, the name that the client has. Sorry about that. And then, so we'll move on to our filters. And in this particular case, we'll get the account, we'll filter based off of the account, and the client facing name that I'm looking for. All right. And effectively, that's it. You could also do this if you, another good use case is, if you only wanted to see, let's just say, opportunities created in a particular year. So think of it, if you want to see 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023, but you didn't want to see them all jumbled in one column. Mm-hmm. This is an awesome way to separate them into multiple columns. And literally all you would do in that particular case, which is the same thing that I did in each one of these, I literally just copied and cloned what I have in step 2, and I changed my filter just to say a different product for, for step 2 and step 3.
Makes sense.
That makes sense?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And once again, on the linkage tab, we'll go here to the linkage tab once again on step 2. Apsona has done the magic for me by offering, how do I want to link these products to the step above? So I just go through the list and pick and choose, how I want to do that. Again, making it really easy for me. All right.
Good.
Let me see. Oh, there we go. We'll go that. All right. So once I created 3 separate times, again, all I did in step 1, I made step 1 for product 1, product 2, and product 3 that I want to go and get. And when you save and run that in Apsona, you get something that looks like this. And notice how easy it is to quickly see this client doesn't have product 2 or product 3, or this client has all 3.
Got it. And
a lot easier.
when you compared it to the Salesforce report, that each customer was represented by different rows, so there was inconsistency. Whereas here, you got one row per person. It makes sense in your brain, and then you can see in line what's missing and what's there. I agree. The visual is much better.
100 times. So
Yeah.
we use these reports or this type of report a lot. This is another one that we get into a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
Often you mentioned earlier, but I often use that use case of opportunities year over year, and you can see where they're missing, or yeah, it's a very good good use case for the tool.
Yeah, no, you can easily see that to see how, yeah, or is this customer, are you increasing with their opportunities, decreasing, trending? Just tons of examples there that give you a lot of information right up front.
Awesome. Great use case.
All right. All right. And the third use case of how multi-step reporting helps us comes along after you've created that really awesome report that we just did in step 2 that shows that market space analysis. This is generally how it comes to me. I'll get a list, or somebody will say, hey, you know what? Can you provide Jim, Jane, Rhonda, and 5 other people access to Salesforce so they can get this white space analysis report every month? And they've never been in Salesforce, and they, quite frankly, they only need Salesforce access just to either get a report or to get some basic data. And what's involved in this particular use case, quite frankly, is 3 licenses. And for most of us, there's tons of money and budgets and things like that we have to live within. And Salesforce licenses really aren't, we want to get the most out of them, and we want to make the most of those Salesforce licenses. And giving a user a license, while I love Salesforce, just to produce a report is probably not a good use case or not a good use of Salesforce in that license.
Yeah.
But again, this is where Apsona comes to your rescue here. And in this particular case, I call this the email dilemma. So one of the things that you can do right out of the box from Salesforce is email reports. I'm sure most people on the call will absolutely know that they can do that. But the challenge is you can only email and deliver reports to users, active users inside of Salesforce. However, with Apsona, you can schedule and email reports that you create to external users or to any email address for that matter. And again, it's really simple. So let me stop this, and I'll show you how you can quickly set up a distribution of this particular report right here in Apsona. So here, that was use case number 2. And oh, you know what? I'm in my sandbox, and I apologize. You can't do it in I can't demo it in the sandbox, but trust me, there is a schedule item or option when you're in your production instance. If you just simply hover, you can schedule the report, and it'll allow you to send those out. And you can type in there any external email address. You can type in any email address into a CSV format, and it will be delivered on the day, at the day and time, using Apsona.
Yeah. If you want, well, if you have more, we keep cruising. I could also share screen really quickly into DevOrg and just show the UI of the scheduler if you'd like, but totally your call.
Absolutely. No. Why don't you share that and show that piece? I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, it's tough when you have to create a whole environment just to demo something. Are you seeing Apsona on a screen, or do I have that right? Can I get anybody?
Yes,
yeah.
I can see it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so let me back up here. So what Antonio was noting is, so we're talking about our scheduler add-on. It's an add-on tool. And when you get that tool, every report that you run has the option to schedule. You also have the scheduler accessible up here in the reporting tools. But I'm just going to go to a report, hit schedule, and basically what you can do is you can say, hey, how often do I want this to send? When do I want it to send? When should it start? When should it end? And then deliver to email addresses. This is literally just an open box, like Antonio said. Any email you want to send it to, it doesn't have to be a Salesforce user, you have access to. You can decide whether to attach the report, show it in line. You've got a few different visual options here. And I think that's the bulk of the power.
Well, I would even say another hidden gem on this is you can craft the message and the subject line as well.
Yeah, there you go.
You can come up with your own, not just the standard Salesforce subject and comment. So there you go.
Super powerful. And this also, scheduler works for merges too. So if you have a merge that you essentially want to automate, you could put it on a schedule and it'll basically just run the merge. If it's an email merge, it'll send the email. If it's a document merge, it'll email the merge owner with that document. So another way to use this tool. Awesome.
All right. Well, Chad, that was all that I had. Maybe we should open it up for Q&A.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Thank you so much. First off, like those are 3 excellent use cases. I like how you kind of tied a bow at the end with the schedule, because you can build the report, but then in the real world, what are you going to do with that report? Well, you're going to email it to the folks that are requesting it. So I think I really appreciate how you've kind of talked through the real life scenarios. So thank you for that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and let's go to the Q&A section. So folks, if you are interested in asking a question, you can put it in the chat. We also have a Q&A box that you can add it to, and we're happy to unmute folks if they want to like ask in real time here. I do see a question from Lynn that says, do the recipients need an Apsona license to view the report? So in the terms of the scheduler, no. Once you are emailing that, it's literally just an email with like a CSV attachment, or like I mentioned, an inline display of the report. So it ceases to be kind of an Apsona property item, and it just goes out into the world as an email. If folks are going to view the report in Salesforce, of course, then yeah, if it's an Apsona report, you need an Apsona license to see that. But thank you for the question, Lynn. Are there any other folks that have questions about what Antonio showed, or questions about maybe other situations he runs into in terms of requests that might be difficult to satisfy in Salesforce?
So Chad, I have a question. I don't know if that I never run into this, but is there a limit on the number of steps that you can have in a multi-step report? I've never reached that limit, but I'm just curious if there is one.
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. The short answer is no, which is awesome. The slightly longer answer is Apsona is a browser-based tool that keeps it really light and lean, and it allows us to do auto updates so that you don't have to reinstall packages all the time. And so Apsona depends a little bit on the browser's power. So sometimes people are using a browser that may be struggling to calculate a really large report, and you might hit an issue there. You also might hit Salesforce limits. But outside of those 2 things, in general, there's not a limit. So as long as like the browser and Salesforce can handle it, you can have as many steps as you want. And let me tell you, I have seen some crazy multi-steps from customers.
Oh, wow.
20 plus steps, really complex.
Okay.
And I've just been so impressed with how people use the tool to solve their issues. So it's very, very powerful. Yeah. That's a good question. Cool. I don't see any new questions popping up. So I think we can kind of just keep cruising and close things up. I'm going to throw a couple more links. If you haven't been paying attention to the chat, folks, I would go in there. I've got some links that are helpful and related to what Antonio was talking about. I'm going to put one more here, which is just a general multi-step article. And since we have a few minutes, I'd love to take this opportunity to kind of do a couple of small ads. Since we have a nice large audience here, I'm going to share my screen really quickly to talk through some new developments at Apsona. Let me go to the right desktop here. So I'm on Apsona's website. First off, I just want to say, if you haven't explored our support articles, I highly encourage you to do so. This is our support documentation page. We have grouped our support articles kind of in themes. And so we can come down here to, I think the reporting is a little bit higher here. Reporting and charting is up here. This is a multi-step overview, which I just put a link in the chat to. You can also just kind of explore things. So we were talking about metric fields. So if I type in metric fields, I'm going to see that searching and filtering pops up. And when I pull that up, I can either look through the table of contents, or I can use Control F, type in metric, and you're going to start seeing that it's referencing metric fields. So I highly encourage folks to just, if they have a question, jump into support, put in a keyword, see what Apsona shows you. And I would say 95% of the answers you need about Apsona are in here. There's a lot in here, I will admit, but it's because Apsona is such a powerful tool. We try to get all the information out to you. So I highly encourage people to use our Salesforce document, or our support documentation. I also want to say that we have a new request form. If you go to the Contact Us button here, it takes a second to pop up because of Zoom. This is our new request form. We have some helpful links. We have this kind of themed out. So if you click on technical support, it's going to dynamically show you some helpful links to videos and articles. If you choose a particular tool that you're interested in asking about, let's say reporting and filtering, it's going to pop up context-specific articles for you. And I've designed this, and I'm the support lead, so I kind of know the bulk of the support requests that come in. So I tried to tailor this form to kind of answer questions preemptively, so maybe you don't even have to submit a case. I also have an optional FAQ section here that if you check on, it opens up. And this is kind of a list of like the top, I don't know how many, but the top items that come up from folks, the top errors, the top questions about merge documents, things like that. So this is a great resource here. Again, as a support lead, I see the bulk of the support requests that come in, and these articles answer them. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of our new request form. And then I'm going to say one more thing, which is we have a new tab here under demos. If you're interested in learning about our tools and they're new to you, we have 3 demos that we do every month. Each of them explores 2 or 3 of our tools. And these are really helpful. They're very fast, 30 minutes. We do 15 minutes of demo, 15 minutes of questions, and it really gives you a good overview of how our tools work. So I encourage you to come to this page and sign up. And again, we do it every month. So want to get people to learn more about Apsona. So if we have any other questions, we can answer them, but it looks like we don't. Any Apsona team members that want to jump on and say anything or ask anything before we close out? All right. Antonio, I very much appreciate your willingness to step up and show how you've used Apsona. It's so great to see like real live uses of it in action. And like I said earlier, I think people can relate more when they see it from a customer. So thank you so much for putting the time into this.
No, anytime. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry for the technical issues. I wish we could see your smiling face, but
no worries. Yeah, no, I apologize. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but that's
no,
okay.
It's on our end. Zoom webinars are tricky to set up. So I think there's a checkbox we didn't check. All right. So getting some thanks from people. You're very welcome. We do these every month. I think it's the 3rd Thursday of the month. So look for it. Actually, on our LinkedIn page, we have an events page. That's where we put our webinars. So feel free to come there and sign up for the next one. So thank you again, Antonio, and everybody have a great rest of your week.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you guys.
Bye-bye.